You just can't make this stuff up. Over the weekend, the G7 meeting was announced. And the spending that they're going to unleash on the globe is enormous. Let's get right to it. So let's go right to my very first screen. How is it that all the interest rates of the world are near zero? How is it that in Europe they're below zero, but in the United States they're like 0.15 for a 5-year treasury bill? All of these central bankers got together and decided, let's bring interest rates down to next to nothing, and rates across the globe went down to nothing. And the idea was to unleash spending, which they did. You know, every town and hamlet and little country, school board, they could borrow and borrow and borrow. They could do bonds, and they could borrow $100 million for next to nothing. And they could do all kinds of improvements in schools and roads and parks and cost them nothing until interest rates start to go up. And they never really planned on paying it back. They just decided that they were going to spend this money because they could get it almost interest-free. But nonetheless, they still borrowed $100 million. So instead of paying these loans off, they keep borrowing money and repaying the loans. They're just rolling over the debt. The debt is accumulating. We have debt everywhere in the world. Here in home in the United States, we've got debt that's just unbelievable. If interest rates really went to a much higher rate, we wouldn't be able to pay the debt. You know, all the interest in the debt service would consume an awful lot of the budget. It'd be very, very bad because social services would have to be cut. It would be a really, really bad thing. So what do you think was going on? Let's just take a look. Well, last week we discussed my timing model. We discussed the fact that I thought prices were going to go considerably higher from here. My timing model has been very, very accurate. Now, as a CYA, doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to continue to be accurate. Now, it did call both corrections in an ongoing bull market. This is March 2018. Called that to the month. And this is March 2020, and it did well on that one as well. And I also said we were going to see home prices go much, much higher. And of course, in every village, hamlet, small town across the United States, home prices have gone up. And in the great markets of Florida, Texas, and Arizona, prices have really, really gone up. And that's what the model shows. This is the accumulation phase. We aren't even halfway yet. And this is the explosive phase. This is where you're really, really going to see prices explode. And this is where fortunes are made. This is where we are now. Now the question becomes, how does that happen? Well, my model doesn't show why, it just shows what. So there's many scenarios that this can happen. Last week we talked about inflation, but inflation would have to get pretty substantial to drive prices as high as the model is showing, because it looks like they're going considerably higher. Now, I don't necessarily know why. I'm just showing what is looking like on my model. So let's take a look. And we just had the G7. The answer is they want to cause inflation all across the globe. They want to include everybody and inflate their economies. So how do you do this and maintain order in the world? If the dollar is the reserve currency, how do you hold that relationship between the euro and the dollar and the Canadian dollar, the dollar and the pound or the yuan? How do you maintain that relationship if you unleash inflation in your own country? So everybody wants to maintain that relationship. And how do they do that? How do they blow bubbles in their currencies? Well, they coordinate it. You went to the G7, they all are getting together. They're talking about spending, and blowing bubbles in their own currencies, in their own countries. Let's just think about this. If you owe $100 and you wake up one morning and your property has gone from 100 to 400 overnight. So now your property is worth 400. but the debt's only worth 100. That's called inflation. So instead of making $25 an hour or $50 an hour, now you're making $150 an hour or $200 an hour. However, it's going to cost you, instead of paying $3 for a gallon of gasoline, might cost you $9 or $12. Bread's going to go from $3 a loaf to $7 or $8 a loaf. But your debt remains the same. A period of adjustment. But if we inflate the assets by 4 times, that means the debt is only 25%. And you're paying back that debt with much cheaper dollars. So if you're earning 4 or 5 times the amount of money that you were just a little before, you can pay that debt off very rapidly and get it done. Now, this is just a scenario, so let me go to my next slide. Because if you look at the G7 meeting, it looks like they're endorsing this modern monetary theory, which says that you can just print money. It's your own currency. You can just go ahead and print it and spend and spend and spend and not worry about paying it back because it's your currency. You'll get your money back. This is your own money. You're just adding to the money supply. Nobody has to pay for it. Nobody has to do anything for it. Now, at the G7, they're also talking about raising taxes globally. So these G7 got together and they're thinking globally. So if you don't get something that's going to protect yourself on taxes, you're also going to be in trouble on that. Let's look at the next slide here. The G7 committed to spending. Macron actually even said they should be selling their gold reserves so that they can upgrade Africa. Now, why would you be doing that? Why would you sell your gold reserves in France to upgrade countries in Africa? Why would you do that? What's the answer to that? What we're saying is that they have no intention of ever paying this back. And I think they've all gotten together to inflate the globe. Now, if you don't have real assets, I think you're going to be in trouble. Because I think that all the currencies across the globe are going to be devalued. I think they're going to be devalued by 10, 20, 50%, 100%. Well, you get your debt under control. If we devalue the currency by 100%, that means the debt is only worth half. Everybody could do that. That would be easy, as long as you own real assets. If you're a tenant, that means that your rent, when the next cycle comes along, your rent's going up a lot. And as a landlord, that's a great thing for us because it's going to maintain our purchasing power, but it's just going to throw a monkey wrench into the system. There'll be an adjustment, but this is one way that will work. Now, it's a little far-fetched. I certainly want you to talk to your financial advisors. Nationally, if you just had 2 homes nationally, you have $3,500 a month today. But if we have devaluation and inflation going and prices go considerably higher, dollar devalues, you could be getting $5,000 a month each. Maybe it goes to $10,000. But that's an exaggeration, maybe. But it's there for you to realize it's going to maintain your purchasing power. Just a couple rentals in your portfolio are going to maintain your purchasing power. And of course, as a real asset, if you own a couple of rentals, they're going to go up in value. And they've been going up in value for decades. But when you get a little bit of burst of inflation, they go up right along with inflation. And what if this is a full-blown inflationary cycle where real assets start to cost a lot more? Well, then you need to talk to your financial advisor. See if this is something that's good. I'm not telling you to have all your money in real estate, which you should probably have a portion of it. It's just a great inflation hedge for yourself. Probably one of the greatest inflation hedges that the average person can have. Easy to buy. Everybody understands them. We have a great financing. We're here in Phoenix. Now, the company I work with is West USA. Did $5.7 billion in sales. Very substantial company. We're here to help you in any way we possibly can. And this is where I get to say, give me a thumbs up if you like my video. Certainly have some comments, because this is a little more controversial than I normally put out. This is just kind of an idea that if things really get going, you really need to protect yourself. So For marketing, if you subscribe to my channel, that would really, really help. And of course, I'm an author. Every author there is loves to see their books get sold. So if you have any interest in it, I just published Real Estate Investing for Beginners. It's a fairly new book. Amazon has that. The Money Machine is virtually everywhere in the world. And if you'd like those books, I'd appreciate the support. If you need to reach me, you can reach me at michael@michaeldeville.com. Now, I'm more than happy to talk to you, talk to your friends, talk to your spouse, talk to your financial advisor. We'll put our heads together, find out if any of this makes any sense, and see if any of it works for you. Put a couple of properties put into your portfolio today in the accumulation phase on my model. Might be one of the best investments you've ever made in your life. So if I can help in any way, give me a call. My best to you.